It's been a month since Batman vs. Superman came into our lives, guys, and yeah, the overall response was pretty heart-wrenching for us DC fans. Yeah, there's a good amount of good responses out there, a lot of positive responses from people. I liked the movie, but, I didn't think it was perfect. I didn't love it, and some of you probably didn't love it either. And I would say one of the biggest faults to Batman vs. Superman getting all those negative reviews was the fact that the narrative of these two heroes fighting got lost somewhere in this setting of the stage story for the Justice League. So I've been giving this a lot of thought, and I've been wanting to make a video about this, and this is probably one of my biggest complaints of the movie too, is it just seemed like they couldn't stick to the narrative of the film, the narrative that they set up 3 years ago when they announced this movie. So I'm here to tell you just how they could have kept the narrative of Batman versus Superman. Now this is going to fall into one of my why category videos. There's no why in the title, so it's more of a why kind of video once again. So here we go, folks. This is how Batman vs. Superman could have kept its narrative. Alright, imagine this, guys. The movie is about to begin. You're sitting there with anticipation, okay? But there's no music. There's just a blank screen, and then all of a sudden the Warner Brothers and DC logos flash across. But again, no music. Instead, you're hearing booms and crashes and grunts, and it really just sounds like someone is getting their ass handed to them. It then cuts to the ground. Just the ground, steady shot, the ground. We're still kind of hearing those noises. All of a sudden, Superman lands on the ground perfectly in frame, bloodied and beaten. The sound of heavy footsteps are heard, and then we get Batman's armored gloved hand just grabbing Superman's throat, and Batman pulls Superman up to his face, and we see that armored bat cowl broken like we eventually see later in the movie. Batman pulls Superman close and with anger recites a line similar to the Dark Knight Returns line that was read by Harry Lennox when they announced this movie at Comic-Con 3 years ago, but obviously it can't be the same line because Batman in this movie is out to kill Superman, and in the Dark Knight Returns he wasn't exactly trying to kill Superman unless Superman wasn't going to back down. So after he recites an epic line that just sends chills down your spine, Batman raises the other fist up in the air, yells out, and then BAM! Cut to black, and the title Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice flashes across the screen with some of that beautiful Hans Zimmer score playing. Seriously, an opening title sequence like that was needed for this movie. Instead, we got the scene that we've seen many times, which of course is Bruce Wayne's parents dying, but we get the little title flashed right down in the bottom right corner for like 2 seconds. That part I really did not understand, and I think if they would have set it up like this, it would have got people just super amped up and excited, like holy shit, Batman is about to kill Superman. We then, of course, lead into the Bruce Wayne point of view Man of Steel sequence, which I think is perfect and doesn't need to be changed at all. But it's the introduction of Lois and Superman. It just really didn't work for me, and I think this is where the story really starts to unravel. The desert scene, I'm just not a fan of. They needed to introduce Superman in this story with something a little more epic than tackling a man through a wall. They needed to display the awesome that is Superman and show him rescuing people, including Lois, in some death-defying sequence. We can all admit that Superman Returns was a bit of a cheese attempt to resurrect Superman, but that plane sequence was tits. So something along the lines of that, in front of an audience, and I'm talking TV and just a crowd of people just cheering Superman on. There was way too much emphasis on hating Superman in this movie. They needed to show people that loved him. We also need to hear Superman talk to these people in that Superman kind of way. And then one of the people could say to him, "You're an angel sent from the heavens." Superman can retort with something modest and just fly off as everyone cheers. It's just something that I think needed to be shown, but I know Zack Snyder really wanted to emphasize like, oh, dude, the world really needs Superman, but he just needed to show a little bit of that. So then, of course, we cut to the Batman introduction scene, which I think is perfect as well, doesn't need to be changed. And the reason for this is because, well, this is not in front of an audience. This is at night in a creepy old church where Batman rescues all these little girls behind that cage or whatever from this pedophile or whatnot. And what does one of the captives say? "It saved us. A devil." Right there, guys. Go back to the person who tells Superman that he's an angel sent from the heavens. We're comparing and contrasting here, showing the drastic differences of these two heroes. How else do you compare these two heroes and show their differences? With their identities, of course. They did a great job in showing this older, broken Bruce Wayne, but really lacked big time in the Clark Kent department. The party scene was good, I'll give it that, but we needed to see Clark out and about being more human. We needed to see how nice of a guy he is and just get to know him better. We basically needed to fall in love with this man, guys, so when we eventually see him see the business end of Doomsday's handspike later in the movie, we would actually feel it in our chest. By the way, setting up the whole Justice League could still be happening while all this is going on. Movie might be a little bit longer and some things might need to be tweaked, but still, they could be setting up as well as keeping the narrative. Alright, we then needed to show the different ways these two fight crime. There needed to be a sequence where Batman is on rooftops trying to find leads to get him to that kryptonite that he needs, so let's see some of those detective skills at work. I'm talking binoculars and everything like that, which eventually would lead him to like a building with like an empty floor that's being redone, so you have like maybe some ladders and a tarp or something. He just gets led in there and he's around investigating. So as Batman is investigating, like 15 guys show up, and of course Batman decides to hide in the shadows, and then it's on, guys. It's on. We then cut to Superman floating over his city, just kind of looking over everything, just kind of listening, just being that angel sent from the heavens. He's not really listening with his super hearing because obviously there's a lot to take in, and apparently they did delete a scene where he was trying to find his mom later in the movie and using his super hearing, and he was just hearing everybody's cries, and they cut it out because they said it was a little too dark for the movie, which is kind of ironic, I guess. But Superman ends up hearing the Batman commotion since, Metropolis and Gotham are just, a bay apart. So we go back to Bats. We see him using his ninja skills to begin taking out the guys one by one. There's about 6 guys left, and Superman comes crashing through a window. We then see how he handles these guys, how he handles the bad guys. Again, comparing Superman and Batman and their crime fighting skills. Superman neutralizes the remaining guys and then looks around the empty, dark room. Batman, with that modulated voice, begins to talk shit to Superman. Superman then uses his laser eyes to locate Batman in the shadows as they talk. Batman then uses one of those lead-based smoke grenades to blind Superman and then escapes out that window that Superman came crashing through. Superman just kind of shakes it off and just says to himself like, oh man, that guy has problems, and then casually flies out of that same broken window out into the night sky. And then we could cut to Batman on a rooftop watching him fly away, and he's just got anger all over his face. See, more buildup. I was a fan of the Batmobile hitting Superman during that one sequence, even though I was kind of like, well, Batman was chasing bad guys and Superman intervened. And yeah, it was a great scene, but it kind of just got in the way of what Batman was doing. Great scene, but I think they needed a scene like this where you see both of their crime fighting skills. It just would have been more build up to that epic fight. Now on to that epic fight. I feel the fight was fantastic. Some say it was too short, but it's only because there really wasn't a good amount of build up to it. The fight can remain the same, even that Martha stuff, which I wasn't too much of a fan of, but what really just kind of takes me out of it, and what I think takes a lot of people out of it, is what's happening with Lex Luthor. The whole electrical disturbance thing with the ship, and of course he's making Doomsday, just kind of like diverts your attention to that, and diverts the whole narrative to that. That needed to happen on another night, just totally like a different night. This night needed to be just Batman and Superman fighting. Of course that would mean tweaking certain story elements with Lex Luthor, but hey, why not? To me, the fight was just resolved way too quickly. Our moms have the same names. We're cool now. It's okay. I'll go find her. And boom, boom, boom. That was it. Batman needed to dwell on what he had done. He was about to kill this man. When Superman is lying there bruised and bloodied with Lois, it would have been great if after throwing the spear away in anger, he looked back and said he was sorry in a pissed off manner and then just took off. Just super disappointed in himself. He heads back to the Batcave, bruised and hurt himself, and he has Alfred tend to him, and then Alfred gives one of those great Alfred speeches as he's tending to his wounds. Superman could be back at his and Lois's place as well, recuperating, talking to Lois, because I feel the kryptonite needed to have more of an effect on him. I mean, it was dark and raining. There's no sun to soak in. So I just really wish that, okay, he's really affected by what Batman did to him. It would have been great to see those elements, like the two heroes recuperating after this fight. So the next night, or whenever, 2 nights, whatever, the electrical disturbance is happening with Lex. From a distance, on a rooftop, we see Batman looking down on what's happening. Behind him, Superman lands and walks up to him. Superman talks to Batman, accepting his apology that he grunted out the other night, and tries to persuade him to team up to take on Lex and whatever he's doing, and of course, find his mother. Batman acts a little stubborn and reluctant at first, of course, but then he eventually agrees, and then we get that epic, also important shot that we were supposed to get, but for some reason didn't get. Them shaking hands. Why was this not in the movie? Why? And then the movie can continue on just like it did with the epic fight with the Trinity and Wonder Woman's entrance, and oh god, that was a great entrance, and then Superman dying and everything, and it still would have worked. And that's how they could have kept the narrative of Batman and Superman fighting while setting everything up, while having the Trinity get together and take on Doomsday, Lex Luthor, and everything. That's how they could have did it, in my opinion. So let me know your thoughts about this down below in the balls area, guys. Do you think this is how they could have kept that narrative? You don't have to agree with me. This is just what I thought. This is just what I've been thinking about the past month after seeing the movie 3 times now. I just was like, you know what? They could have kept the narrative like this while keeping the Justice League story going. Let me know if you agree with me. You could disagree and like throw your ideas in. That's fine. Whatever you want. It doesn't matter. We don't have to agree. This is just my opinion. It's just my brain, my stupid brain going to work and thinking about this movie that I enjoyed, but I wanted to enjoy a little bit more than I did. Appreciate you guys clicking in. I'll talk to you later. And thank you for watching, you beautiful people. You go ahead and hit that like, thumbs up button if you'd be so kind. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Subscribe to my other channel too. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Google+, and visit filmjunkie.com for all my videos.